Everyone, week 15 fantasy playoffs for many. Excited about that. I'm going to try to retweet this out here. Here we go. I'm just going to give me a second here to put this on my Twitter feed as well as the Rotowire one. And all right, we're set to go. Excellent. All right, so start taking some questions here. Let me just get my other screen optimized here, and we are good to go. All right, looks like we got a few questions queued up, so excited for that. All right, see, come on. What do we got here? You got Brandon Cooks, Hollywood Brown, Brandon Ayuk, need two. Well, the uncertainty at the quarterback position in Baltimore makes me lean against Brown. Lamar is apparently significantly injured with an ankle bruise and not expected to play. He could play. And look, I know Tyler Huntley did well last week. But again, when a backup quarterback comes in, there's really no point of reference for the defense. And so that's the problem. They come in, they dominate. But now all of a sudden this week, we're looking at a situation where defense prepared for him, most likely. Brandon Cooks in a great spot. Davis Mills has thrown for 300 yards in 3 of his 5 starts. Cooks went over 100 yards last week. Beautiful matchup. Love that. Brandon Ayuk. He's had at least like 55 yards, I think, maybe 4 straight games, running a ton of routes on the field, over 90% of the snaps. I think you just go with those. Hollywood's been slumping, and again, with the quarterback situation, not so good. Come to some Insta questions in a minute here. Right now, I'm on Twitter and YouTube. I'll go back and forth as I always do. Johnny Football, Brandon Cooks, AJ Green, Chase Claypool, Cole Beasley need two. So Chase Claypool's had good yardage in the last 4 games. Tennessee gets quick pressure, and the A-dot of Claypool's been over 10 yards. I think in this game, I don't think that Ben's going to connect on those passes. It really seems like a Deontay Johnson game to me. So I'm very concerned about Claypool because that interior pressure may make it such that you can't get the ball to that A-dot. Deontay Johnson's like 7 yards, so it's a big difference, massive difference there. And so I'm going to rule Claypool out here. AJ Green, I love him this week. He looked last week. He showed us he's still got it, and Detroit can't really put too much attention on him. They don't have the personnel to do that. And they're missing a bunch of players in their secondary with COVID as it is. So it's an attackable matchup. So I think you got to go AJ Green. Brandon Cooks had just said a minute ago, wonderful play this week. So as much as Cole Beasley's had been, has those good games here and there, and the slot is the place to attack Carolina, I think Cooks and Green are your best options. If you have a gut feel on Beasley, it's justifiable because the slot matchup's good. Let me get a couple questions from Insta here, and then you won't see these on the screen if you are on Twitter and YouTube. DJ Moore or KJ Osborne. So DJ Moore is expected to play. I just got that report. And so love KJ Osborne. I definitely do. But the targets, they only go there when they have to go there. It's like they don't throw him the ball unless they have to. And I think with the Bears, they probably lead this game. They probably don't have to push the ball his way so much. Notice in that Pittsburgh game, he got the touchdown late when Pittsburgh was climbing back. DJ Moore is in a great spotter. He's done well with Cam Newton, and Tre'Davious White's out, and I think they're going to have to play catch up. They're not going to be able to run the ball here. So I think DJ Moore has a floor and a ceiling. I think Moore's floor is higher than Osborne's, and that's why you go DJ Moore. Hurts or Tua, both in good spots, but Hurts still, even though he may play, the ankle's a problem, and he's a running quarterback, and it's a high ankle sprain. So I would rather take Tua here. Tua has a great matchup. Miami's running backs are coming off the COVID. Does play like Raven, by the way. And the first question was John Seymour. Sorry about that. So play like Raven. So, Miami had running backs on COVID this week, and they activate them. But Coach Brian Flores said that he may take it easy on them because apparently they weren't healthy. They were sick. So he probably could throw in this game. Tua should be able to throw the ball at will against the Jets. Devontae Parker's in good shape. Mike Gesicki. So I think Tua's floor is higher than Hurts because Hurts' ankle is bad, and that's the thing that separates it for me. Because if Hurts can't run, I really don't want Hurts unless I have to. One more Insta question for Twitter and YouTube. This is Frank RG, McLaurin or Darrell Henderson or Javonte Williams in the flex. So the problem is Henderson and McLaurin play Tuesday. Henderson's probably splitting snaps with Sony, although we don't know Henderson is healthy enough other than the COVID to play because he missed the last 2 games, even though he was active for one of them. So McLaurin also, we don't know if he's with a third-string quarterback. So at this point, I say, look, it's a Sunday decision. Javonte Williams, it doesn't have a great matchup, but he's been productive. I take the floor and I go with it. Now, if you're in a position where you need a 20-point game because you're an underdog, then I think you roll the dice to Tuesday, and then you go McLaurin if we have the first or the second, either Allen or Heineke. But if the third-string quarterback, you'll have to go Henderson at that point. All right, some Twitter, YouTube questions here. Randy, good to see you, man. Glad you played Hunter Henry last night. I was glad I made that call. Had him in the league, too. Was happy about that. You need 2 running backs in a non-PPR. You got Javonte, Dillon, Penny, Sony, and Michael Carter. So Sony, it looks like most likely to be splitting work with Darrell Henderson. And again, they're playing Seattle. So that's a very good run defense. So I'm not great on that. Penny also has a tough matchup here because the Rams are tough to run on. Last week, Penny had a beautiful matchup. We loved him last week, but this week the matchup isn't as conducive. Dillon faced the top 4 run defense in the Ravens. Now, Dillon can still get to them. He'll get some carries, could wear him down a bit, but it's not a very good matchup there either. Michael Carter's matchup I like. He was seeing like 18-ish touches a game in the last 4 games. And he's healthy. And Robert Saleh said he's going to be involved here. And Miami blitzes a ton. And Michael Carter's been great in the screen game. I don't care if it's not PPR. He's still going to get yardage there. And so him as a safety valve is a very, very strong play here. I do like his floor there. And, Javonte is a bad matchup with Cincinnati, but they're at home and he's splitting with Melly Gordon. But I like Javonte's matchup better than I like A.J. Dillon's matchup. So therefore, I'm gonna say Javonte a little bit ahead of Dillon. Penny and Sony, again, Sony splitting work. Penny's got a bad matchup. So I'm gonna say Michael Carter because of the screen game and Javonte because of he's just a great player. And so he could come through even despite a bad matchup. Johnny Football, Taysom Hill or Justin Fields. So it is a tough one as well. Well, what we've noticed, though, with the Bucs this year is that they're lights out against the run, but running quarterbacks can have some success. I mean, Josh Allen had the 100-yard game, and there were a couple of games that gave him 40 yards to quarterbacks. But I noticed when quarterbacks are designed to run against them, their defense doesn't account for that very well. And I think that's going to be a big staple of Sean Payton's game is to get him running. Now, Justin Fields, he's playing well. He's playing better. Minnesota's not a bad matchup. Minnesota, I think their linebackers can slow him in the run game. And so I think Fields may not run for as much yardage as we've seen. Basically, passers, I see him as kind of even. So basically, I'm going to say Taysom Hill going to be there because I think Hill's floor is higher than Fields. They both have good ceilings as well. And then Johnny, David Johnson or Dante Foreman. So in theory, Foreman has a good matchup. Pittsburgh's like bottom 5 or bottom 6 against the run. However, here's the problem that we have. I think that Pittsburgh is going to stack the box and make Tannehill beat them because I don't think they respect their passing game. So that gets me nervous about Foreman because if Pittsburgh does stack the box, that makes it more difficult. If they were playing straight up because they feared the passing game. Now David Johnson, Burkhead may play. He was originally ruled out. Then he was questionable, so I'm not sure where that's going here. But David Johnson has a good matchup. But if Burkhead's involved, that really chops things significantly. Now, the fact this game could be close means the running back can be involved more. This is what I'll say. Foreman will see more touches probably than David Johnson. So Foreman, I believe, has a higher floor. Now, Johnson hasn't had a ceiling this year, but I do believe David Johnson in this particular matchup, especially if Burkhead's out, he in that case would have more ceiling. If Burkhead's out, it's David Johnson. If not, floor plays Foreman. Ceiling play with a risk of a low score is David Johnson. All right. Before I come back to Insta, I'll take one more Twitter, YouTube question. Randy, half PPR, which flex would you pick from Zeke, Dillon, Javonte, or Sony? I know. And the Cowboys are talking about even getting Corey Clement in with Pollard and Zeke. Zeke had the knee brace last week. Says he feels better, but he still hasn't put like 70 yards in a game. And the Giants are a team you pass on. They're not a team you really run on as much. So that makes me a little nervous. Dillon, like I said earlier, it's not a good matchup. He could cash at the goal line, but this is not a good matchup to run on. Both tackles are out for the Packers. Javonte, talented, tough matchup. Sony's going to probably split work with Darrell Henderson. I don't know for sure what Henderson's health status is. I know COVID he's cleared. Don't know if injury here is, but if he splits, it's a bad matchup. Seattle's very good against the run. So, I'm going to say the best floor of this group still goes to Zeke, but I think Javonte may, even though split role, tough matchup, I think Zeke hasn't shown as much upside. So I think Javonte has a lower floor than Zeke, but he has a little more upside. Dillon is really, you got to bank for a touchdown, and that's kind of tough. So I'm going to probably have to say, again, Zeke for a safe play, but if you need a little bit of pop, you need 15 points. I don't think Zeke's getting that. Javonte could, even in a split timeshare. Let me get some Insta questions here. All right. John Seymour, you got Myles Gaskin or Javonte Williams. So Brian Flores said as he brought these running backs up the COVID list, he's concerned about their usage, that he doesn't really want to push them much. So my thought is problematic in that Myles Gaskin may not be used much, and they have most of their running backs healthy. Lindsey's not there, but who cares, right? Javonte has got to be the better play because he's tough matchup, but he's got that floor, and we kind of know what we're getting. But Gaskin, week to week, we don't even know what we're getting when he is healthy. So a little bit problematic there. And then we got Giles, G-Man, Javonte, or Aaron Jones. Man, it sucks it comes to this, doesn't it? I mean, wow, how do we sit Aaron Jones? But we know Aaron Jones isn't getting work. I mean, Dillon is like massively out-touched him in the last 3 games. I think the saving grace for Aaron Jones, if the game plan is planned properly, Baltimore is bottom 4 against receiving backs. If Matt LaFleur properly analyzed this game out, he sees an inefficiency in the pass defensive running backs, and Aaron Jones is involved. Now, this said, Javonte Williams has a higher floor because Aaron Jones has shown us some significantly low floor. So, but I think Jones always has that 2 to 3. I told somebody this last week. He has that 2 to 3 touchdown upside. And last week he hit the 2 touchdowns. Will he do it this week? Tough matchup, but through the air, he can. So if you want a stable 10 points, you take Williams. If you need 20 and you're risking an 8 or a 4 or a 6, then I think it's got to be Aaron Jones. I think you have to frame it that way based on your game. Play like Raven, you're welcome. One more instant, I'll come back to Twitter and YouTube, and then I'll come back and forth. And then, John, NBA games, I don't know any NBA, so I'm sorry about them. It's all NFL. Play like Raven, Gaskin, Higgins, or Ayuk, just one. We got to rule Gaskin out because, like you said earlier, Brian Flores, we're not sure what he's doing as running backs here. Look, Higgins is on fire. Higgins has been at least 114 yards 3 games in a row. And he's an alpha. I know they got Chase, but they're both alphas. And Higgins, this is a better matchup for Higgins than it is for Chase because Denver plays more of that too high shell. Higgins runs a lot underneath, a big body. Ayuk, love Ayuk, and he has a great matchup. But they have a very concentrated passing. Kittle's been getting a lot, and then we got Debo involved, and then Ayuk, but they may run the ball successfully here. Higgins is going to have a higher floor than Ayuk, and I think Higgins actually has a higher ceiling than Ayuk, and Ayuk could have the better game always, but I think Higgins, because of the safety, is the way we go. All right, let's get back to some Twitter and YouTube here. Iron Eddie, playoff time is here. Excellent. You need 2 from Van, Jefferson, Julio, Jones, and man, Devontae. You got to tell me if it's Devontae Freeman, Devontae Smith. I'm going to assume it's Freeman. So overall, Freeman is if it's Freeman, he has a good matchup. And nose tackle Kenny Clark is out. And Green Bay's not good against run, but that helped. Now, Devontae gets dinged because if Lamar Jackson doesn't play, a lot of his success has been because of the stress that Lamar Jackson puts on the run defense, opens lanes. So there's a little bit of nervousness there. Now, Julio, I don't know what we're going to get. Last week, they didn't throw to him much, but they were winning 20-0. So we may throw that game out. Maybe they were going to throw to him more, but they didn't need to, and they're getting him back from injury. I do like Julio's matchup here. You can attack Pittsburgh. You can't attack Pittsburgh. And Julio, if he's healthy, will have to be part of that. Van Jefferson, we never know what the targets are going to be. It's a very attackable matchup against Seattle. If Odell's back, we don't know if he's going to, he can get that long touchdown. So Van is very, very volatile. I think of the 3, Van probably has the most likely upside. And Devontae has the highest floor of the 3. Devontae Freeman, assuming that's what you're saying there. So I would be inclined to start Devontae Freeman for the floor. And then for the second one, if you need 8 points or 10 points, roughly in that 8 range, I think Julio's more likely to get that. Jefferson could have you that 2 catch for 12-yard game, but he also could have 4 catches for 100 and a touchdown. So I think Van has more upside. So I think if you want the safe play, if your game is close and you just want to bank those points, it's Julio. But if you think you're an underdog and you need some kick, then I think you add Van Jefferson in the mix. Alex Fassbender, there you go. Half PPR, Gallup or Claypool. So the thing Claypool's been good 4 games in a row, and he's really coming on nicely, very, very well. Now, Tennessee will get quick pressure, and Claypool has that over 10-yard average depth of target. And I think this is the week where Ben's going to struggle getting that downfield. He's going to be a Deontay Johnson and to get that ball out real quickly. And so I think that Tennessee pass rush doesn't translate to a Claypool game. Gallup, on the other hand, does have an excellent matchup here. Certainly, if the Giants shadow, it's not going to be Bradbury on Gallup. It's going to be on Cooper, or if Lamb goes to the outside. So I think Gallup has the more advantageous matchup. And New York's a team you want to pass on, not run on. So I think Michael Gallup is the play here. Claypool has a higher floor, I believe, because his involvement in the passing. He's had 3 games with 8 or 9 targets in the last 4, 3 out of 4. So he has a little bit of a higher floor, but I think Gallup has a reasonable floor, but I think he has a higher ceiling. He could have that game where he definitely scores, and he could go up near 100 yards in this game, because I think the matchup is conducive to that. Giles, you have a PPR, Javonte, or Aaron Jones. I think, somebody else had this question. I think I just answered for them. So basically what I said was Javonte Williams is your floor play. You're going to get you 8 to 10 points. You're going to be really good there. Aaron Jones he's been getting less work than Dillon, but he has that multi-touchdown upside, and Baltimore is very bad against receiving backs. So I think if you need the 20-point game, it's not Williams, it's going to be Aaron Jones, but Jones has more floor. So you got to look at your matchup, make the decision based on that. But Jones is your upside play. Williams is your floor play. You got to frame it that way. All right, take some Insta questions here. All right. John Seymour, I wonder if I answered this one. Myles Gaskin or Javonte? I think I may have. Javonte Williams, I'm going to go with here because I'm not sure of Gaskin's usage, because we talked about Coach Flores saying that he was not sure how he's going to use his running backs this week because they were on the COVID list. Kevin, you've got half PPR, Chase Claypool or A.J. Dillon. Dillon's got a bad matchup here. Dillon is facing a top run. I think they're top four. The Ravens. And so this is not a conducive matchup for him. He can get the goal line score. He definitely can. Claypool's getting 8 or 9 targets in 3 of his last 4 games. I don't like his matchup because the interior pressure the Titans are likely to get. That said, I think Claypool still has a higher floor than Dillon here. I think he has an equivalent ceiling. So I think based on that, we got to lean toward Claypool. And again, these questions are on Insta, so you're not seeing them on Twitter and YouTube. Play like Raven, Gaskin, Higgins, or Ayuk. Oh, man, it seems like I answered some of these already, but maybe I didn't. John, you're welcome. So basically here, Higgins is the best play of the group because he has the highest floor and the highest ceiling. Ayuk has a comparable ceiling, but not quite to that level. So Higgins, I believe, is your play there. And Cam Ramos, Standard League, you need 2, Gaskin, Zeke, Penny, and Henderson. So basically, again, I've been mentioning Coach Flores really has been talking down his running back usage because 3 of them were on the COVID list, and he's concerned about pushing them this week. So I'm going to rule him out. Zeke has a good floor, and he's getting work. He said the knee brace made his knee feel better. So it's not a great matchup, but I think Zeke is still going to get enough work to give you a floor. Of Penny and Henderson, so the good news is they both played that Tuesday game. So right now, Henderson would be my play. They both have bad matchups, but assuming Henderson is ruled back in as usual, if we get, as long as we get the report that he's active, you have till Tuesday on this one. And you can always tweet me at Jim Coventry NFL on Monday or Tuesday to get that one hashed out last minute. But right now I'd say Henderson. But if we get a report that Henderson is not looking good here, then, because the COVID he's clear, but the injury we're not sure of. But if he's not clear, then you got Penny to hedge back on. Penny has a bad matchup. Henderson has a bad matchup as well, but Henderson has a better situation because the defense has to respect the pass of the Rams, so he would have more room to run. So Zeke and Henderson, but you can, again, at Jim Coventry NFL, you can circle back with me early Tuesday, and you can ask me between Penny and Henderson, and if things change, I can explain that. Jimmy Smith's the whole, I think you're talking about the Ravens secondary. Everybody's out, man. But Humphrey's the one. Humphrey's the one that we worry about because Humphrey's the dude that can really shut people down. Jimmy Smith, his best days are a little behind him. But thank you for adding that. Appreciate it. If anybody sees any injury updates, let me know. It's 10:17. It might have 11:17 if you're Eastern. But if you see any of these updates, let me know that. All right, let's get back to Twitter and YouTube. Iron Eddie, full PPR. Edmonds, Wilson Jr., Sanders on Tuesday. Miles Sanders. Okay, and then Sony Michel on Tuesday. So, yeah, Chase Edmonds. My guess is that they held him out till he was 100%, which is a beautiful move. So my assumption is he comes in 100%. James Conner's ankle's dinged. He's supposed to play. But my guess is, how do you push James Conner if you can rest him a little bit? And that's speculation. That's subjective. But I would think Edmonds gets a little extra work here because Conner's probably not 100%. They probably want him 100%. Like, if he's that close where he practices, he's probably close. So next week, he might be great. And against Detroit, how much are they going to need him? So my guess is they're not going to burn Conner late. And I could be wrong on that. So I like Edmonds here. Now, Wilson, he hasn't played well. He hasn't looked good. He doesn't look nearly as good as he did last year. But he has a great matchup. And they should be winning this game against Atlanta. So I do think he's a good play. Sanders, it's difficult because if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, and we don't know if he will, he has a high ankle sprain. He's practiced some, may play. But if he's out, their whole running game changes because he dictates numbers in defense against the defense. And their running game has been taking up because of the presence of Hurts. If he's not there, that does not bode well for him. Washington's also very good against the run. They're a pass funnel defense. You want to throw them. Sony Michel, now Henderson's back. We don't know what his role will be, but if Henderson gets back to his role, you're risking here because Sony Michel may go back to 5 touches, and that could be it. So I think right now, Edmonds and Wilson are your safest two. They have equivalent upside to your other 2 plays. So I just think you roll with them. All right, Jeff, we got one coming up for you here. You just had to start Stevenson. And, well, no, you don't. It was a good play. We could not predict that the Patriots would fall behind double digits. If they didn't, Stevenson would have gotten that defense. Because I know they're ranked high, but Stevenson would have been just fine in that game. But they had the block punt. Mack threw an interception. So it wasn't a bad call. It was Reminder Stevenson was a very good play. It didn't work out. But you see, that's the nature of fantasy football, right? I could always I can tell you everything about a game going in. But then the game gets played, right? And that's why we all don't win the Millie Maker every week, right? Because we can pick any player we want, and that's why people can't win more than 50% of the time when they're sports betting, right? Because these NFL games, 1 fumble, 1 sack, game takes on a life of its own. You made the right choice with Stevenson, no matter who else you had. Stevenson was a great process play. All right, Randy, Gabe Davis or Donovan People-Jones. So I'm going to say Gabriel Davis. I don't like the outside corner matchup. Although Carolina's down a couple corners, so that helps. All right. So Davis is fine. And they're going to throw. They're throwing team. They're going to throw. And I do like Davis. Donovan People-Jones worries me because I don't know who's playing quarterback for Cleveland. I don't know who's going to be healthy on the offensive line. There's so much uncertainty. And I love Donovan People-Jones. He's a great big play option. But right now, there's so much uncertainty with Cleveland. I don't want to – Nick Chubb, fine. But I don't want to touch another player on Cleveland because I just simply don't know what's going to happen with them because they have so many players on COVID and they're having some struggles of sorts. So it's got to be Gabriel Davis for me. And, hey, Donovan People-Jones could get 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the situation would really have to work out well for that to happen. All right, Joe Burrow or Taysom Hill. Hard to bench Joe Burrow, but he's got a good floor always. The matchup with the Denver Broncos, Denver's bad against the run. And since he ultimately is a running team, they throw, but they want to run. And I think they get traction on the ground this week. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. And the way that Vic Fangio's defense takes away the downfield big play threat, it potentially limits Jamar Chase. And so it makes it more of an underneath game. Taysom Hill, he's not Josh Allen, but running quarterbacks all season, when running quarterbacks have designed runs against the Bucs, they can have success. The Bucs are great against running backs, but you can have them in the running quarterback game. And my guess is Sean Payton dials that up. I think Taysom Hill runs for 60-plus yards here, and he always could score. So, all right, Hill is high floor, very high floor. I don't know how much ceiling he has against the Bucs because ultimately those receivers, I don't know how they're going to win against a secondary. And there's injuries in Tampa, but they still got enough players in that blitz scheme. So Burrow has a higher ceiling, but Burrow has a lower floor. So if you need to save 15 points out of your quarterback, bank it, call it a day, it's Burrow. Hill always has downside because if the running game doesn't get going, he's kind of screwed. So, but if he does get that running game going, 100 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, he can get you 30 points, right? So I think Burrow's your safe play, confident play. But if you really need to shoot for the moon, I don't think there's a moon game for Burrow. I think it's more for Taysom Hill. So that's the way I would look at it. I'd look at a matchup, see what kind of points you need, and I'd make the decision that way. Insta, looks like I'm caught up on you guys, so we're good there. All right, Jeff, non-PPR, Javonte, Miles Sanders, A.J. Dillon. You're leaning Javonte, then you need to stay Javonte. They're all equal plays. And when you have a gut call, you definitely got to follow that gut call. Javonte is a very solid play here. It's a bad matchup, but he's a very talented running back, and they have good blocking. And so the run blocking is very important here. You know, Denver has been a very solid group. They're middle of the pack, but it's still good. And Miles Sanders, if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, that hurts their running game. The same running lanes aren't there that Sanders has been enjoying, and that would be problematic. Although he did run well with Gardner Minshew under center in that one game. But on Washington Washington's more of a pass funnel. They're tough to run on, but they're easy to pass on. So, and A.J. Dillon has a brutal matchup. Ravens have been top 4 against the run. He could score touchdowns because we never could predict that. Gets a couple goal line plunges and he's gold. I think that Javonte has your highest floor of the 3, and that's why I'd recommend him here. Randy, half PPR, KJ Osborne, Bateman, or MVS. So the first thing is Huntley had that great game last week, but the backup quarterback coming in the game, defense not prepared for him, and therefore a lot of good things happened. Bateman had 100 yards. It doesn't look like Lamar's going to play. That's what it looks like. Adam Schefter says most likely he doesn't play. So I think that if Huntley's in there, and I don't think Bateman is going to do great against that Green Bay secondary. Green Bay is very good and defensively against the pass. Even with Jair out, they've been fine. KJ Osborne's a decent play here, but there's floor. If Minnesota gets out to a lead, they're not going to throw him the ball. They throw him the ball when they have to. I like MVS here. It's always a crapshoot with him, right? But you see, Baltimore is what we call that pass funnel defense. They're 4th against the run, but they're bottom 7 against the pass. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to take advantage of that. So, but I'm going to tell you this. MVS always has a tiny floor. So MVS is a solid ceiling play. But I think KJ Osborne actually has a higher floor. But he doesn't have the ceiling this week. The matchup against the Bears is good, but I think they're going to lead. I would personally pick MVS here because I think they're going to be able to attack that Ravens secondary, and I think they will. And he's been getting targets mostly in the last 3 games. So I think we're going to bank on the target volume and go with MVS. This is a tough call. If you got a gut feeling, roll with it. Got a couple Insta questions here. Frank, you got Ben or Tua. Ben's been doing well lately. I mean, he's toast as a quarterback, but he got like 3 touchdowns in 2 of his last 4, multiple touchdowns in 3 of his last 4. Yardage has been over 260. Tennessee, they're middling against the pass. Their pressure rate has been underrated. I mean, PFF has them low, but they get that interior pressure. Ben will get it out quickly. I think Ben has a decent floor. I love Tua this week, though, because Miami's had the COVID run through their running back core. Brian Flores said he wants to monitor the running backs, not push them too hard. You can attack the Jets through the air. So I think that's what he does. I think he attacks them heavily through the air. I think Parker, Gesicki have great matchups. I think Tua gets some yardage on the ground. I think Tua not only has a higher floor than Ben, I think he has a similar ceiling. So I think that higher floor leans me toward Tua. But ultimately, Ben could be in a real low-scoring game here, whereas I think Tua is going to put points up on the board. And another Insta question, you won't see this on Twitter and YouTube. Francisco, you got Javonte, Jeff Wilson, or Goddard. You need 2. All right, so look, Jeff Wilson does not look good in his return, but he has a great matchup, and we can't discount that. And the probability that San Francisco plays with the lead is high. So Wilson should see volume here, and that volume should equate. So I do like Jeff Wilson here. Now, Javonte and Goddard, we saw Goddard blow up a couple games ago, I believe. He had the huge game where he got all the production in the first quarter, a couple touchdowns, bunch of yardage, quiet after that. They're playing Washington, and Washington against the tight end is a tough matchup against the receivers. So you go and attack them. But Goddard's a big part of their passing game, and he kind of is a receiver anyway. So what I'm going to say is this. I think Javonte Williams has a much better floor than Dallas Goedert. But I think Goddard may have a ceiling here because if that game gets a little nutty and gets to the shootout, I think some of these divisional matchups can kind of go south sometimes. I think Goddard is a higher ceiling. I think Wilson's a great floor play. Javonte Williams is a great floor play. I think ultimately that if I really need some ceiling, though, I'm probably going to put in Goddard for Williams because Williams does not have a good matchup against Cincinnati, and he's going to split that work with Melvin Gordon. So that's the way I would frame that one. All right, so Insta questions are caught up, it looks like. And let's go to Twitter and YouTube. All right, Kevin, you've got half PPR, A.J. Dillon or Chase Claypool. Claypool has seen like 8 or 9 targets in 3 of his last 4 games. I don't like the matchup this week with Tennessee because they're going to get quick interior pressure and that 10-yard average depth of target that Claypool normally sees. It could be the shorter passes that click, but I still think the targets he's seeing, you're welcome, Francisco. I think the targets he's seeing is going to help him have a floor here. A.J. Dillon, look, he's been playing great, but he's facing a top 4 run defense in the Ravens. Now, he can get a touchdown or 2, certainly, and then that could flip his script. But I think the matchup is not good, and they're down both tackles in Green Bay. So I think Dillon has a much lower floor than Claypool. They both have ceiling potential. They both could go off in their own way. But I think the higher floor for Claypool in your half PPR, and that's the way I would recommend it. It's like 60% to 40%, 60% to Claypool, and that's what I would recommend there. Robert, good to see you, man. Defensive streamer, Denver, Tennessee, or the Jags. Tennessee gets that interior pressure. Ben gets the ball out quick, but man, Ben can make some really, really crap decisions when he's under pressure. So there's a lot of merit to Tennessee there. Denver gets no pressure, and they're easy to run on. And Joe Mixon, I think, will run on them. And I think they may not need Burrow to be in bad spots here. So I think the Denver matchup's a little bit tricky there. The Jaguars, you know what? Davis Mills has thrown for 300 yards in 3 of his 5 starts, 243 in 4 of his starts. And I think the problem is, I know the Jags have Josh Allen, but their pressure rate is really low. They're number 25 in pressure rate. And I think if Davis Mills is kept somewhat clean, which I know their line's not good, but the pressure rate's not good either. So I think I'm going to lean Tennessee here because I think Ben could go into implosion mode in any given week. Sacks, fumbles. He gets into turtle pose right away when he sees somebody come by him. So I think that's the way we're going to look here. All right, let's see what else we got. Let me see where I'm at on my questions here. Did I get you? Got you there. I'm going to scroll up a little bit here. Here we go. All right, Randy. Dolphins or Eagles defensive were points and yardage counts. So the thing with the Eagles is it really is who's going to be available for Washington. That's, if Taylor Heineke or even Kyle Allen play, but they're both out, then that flips the script as well. So I mean, it's really dicey on that. Whereas, the Dolphins are blitzing the hell out of teams, and their outside corners are very good, and Zach Wilson is terrible. So I almost think that you go with the Dolphins at home. And I think you just roll with that because of the uncertainty of the Eagles game. And I don't even know if the Eagles have the same floor that Miami has. So I think we just roll with the Dolphins here because if the Eagles get, the Washington football team gets Heineke in there, I think they're going to be fine. And I think they're going to be able to move the ball a bit. So I think that's what we're going to say for this one. Robert, you got Melly Gordon or Darrell Henderson. I don't know what Darrell Henderson's role is going to be. I know he's cleared from COVID, but he didn't play the last 2 games because of injury, and they haven't really said much about that. So I'm going to say right now, Melly Gordon. It's not a great matchup, but he's a good player. He's got a good run blocking line. So I think he gets his normal work done here. So I think that gives him a good floor, and he can always find the end zone. Whereas Henderson, I just don't know what I'm getting yet. I've got to see if they and how much work do they give Sony? Is Sony go back to the normal role, or does that go south? So I'm going to say Melvin Gordon just because it's safe right now. Got an Insta question here. You're not going to see this on Twitter and YouTube. Chab got Flex, Sterling Shepard, or Rashad Bateman. That's a good question. So it comes down to Mike Lennon. When Sterling Shepard's running the slot, Daniel Jones able to get him the ball real well. I'm very concerned with Mike Lennon getting on the ball there. Dallas is going to have a lot of pressure on him. They got all 3 of their top rushers healthy now. Bateman, I worry that if Lamar doesn't play, we saw that Huntley got him the ball last week, but he was the backup quarterback. Team wasn't prepared for him. This week they are prepared for him. But I think ultimately Green Bay is going to be leading in this game. Baltimore is going to have to throw. I think Bateman at this point has a better floor than Sterling Shepard with Mike Lennon. If it was Daniel Jones, I'd flip that. So I'm going to say the floor is better at Bateman. Therefore, I would go with Bateman. All right, let's see what we got here. And then Jeff, you like Dolphins D over Philly. Yep. And Iron Eddie, 2 receivers, Javonte Smith. Okay, here we go. So yeah, Javonte Smith one. Washington is very easy to pass on. I know the last game they had a good matchup. They went to Dallas Goedert all day, and he didn't get any targets. The targets are problematic for Smith. But Smith is a really good player. He looks good, but the targets have to be there. My guess is against Washington, they have to throw some. Now, I like it actually better if it's Gardner Minshew, but that said, so I'm going to say this. Van Jefferson is still your volatile play. He could get 3 targets, and he might not catch them. He drops some balls too. But Van Jefferson has the highest ceiling of the 3. Julio and Smith, I do believe, like I said, Julio was last week. There's that shutout game. They didn't have to throw the ball, so they didn't. I think Julio and Javonte have very solid floors in this game. I think if I'm going to, of those 3 now, if I'm going to sit one for ceiling, I'm going to sit Julio. And I'm going to play Van as the upside play, unless I want that floor. I think Julio's going to get you 8 to 10 PPR points here. So that's how I'd recommend that one. Laura and Jim Cooperman need to start a running back and a flex in a PPR. Hubbard, Penny, Chenault, Dalton, Schultz. All right, so, Hubbard is seeing less work than Amir Abdullah. Cam Newton involved in the running game. Hubbard got the touchdown last week. Flukish, but fine. But he's not getting efficiency. He's not getting many touches. If he doesn't get a touchdown, he's kind of screwed. Rashad Penny, we liked him last week. He had a great matchup. Man, I had him in my original DFS lineup, and then I saved a few bucks by putting Jeff Wilson, and boom, dumb decision. But this week, Penny's matchup is brutal. And so I'm not as bullish on him. Laviska Shenault, I don't think the change of coach is unlocking him. He's getting his 40 yards, 30 yards a week. That's about a 3 for 30. Roughly, you're getting that. So there's some floor there. Dalton Schultz, on the Sirius show, I say this pretty much every week. When Dallas has all 3 receivers healthy, Schultz ain't getting the ball. And we've seen that in the game where they've all been there. They don't need to use him. It's when they're missing a receiver or 2, he needs to be involved. And so Schultz, I think, is really tied to that. And right now with the 3 receivers, Schultz is working. So here's what I tell you. That all said, Penny is going to get opportunity. Penny does have talent. So I'm going to say Penny at your running back, and I'm going to say Shenault at your flex. These are, this already. These are low ceiling options, especially Schultz with the 3 receivers. If there weren't, then he has plenty of ceiling. But right now I'm going to say Penny and Shenault, and you hope they come through with a touchdown. Good luck. And if you have a gut feel, these are not slam dunks. So if you have a gut feel, trust your gut on that. Got one on Insta here. Got Kabroom, Van Jefferson, or KJ Osborne. So they both have similar floor. They both have similar ceiling. My guess is that Van Jefferson being attached to Matthew Stafford in a game, they're probably going to throw more. Seattle's better against the run. Seattle's more of a pass funnel D right now, so I like him better there. KJ Osborne, it's one of those things. Love KJ Osborne, but it seems like they only throw him the ball and they have to. Had they not had Pittsburgh coming back on them last week, he may never gotten that long pass thrown his way. It's really just about Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook. So I'm going to say they both have floor and ceiling. If you have a gut feel, go with it. But based on the matchup, I think Van Jefferson is more likely to have a floor than Osborne. Whereas Osborne, like I said, he could just get phased out of the game. So could Jefferson. But I do trust the Rams offense more than I trust the Vikings offense right now. And they're playing in Chicago outdoors, if that helps too. John Seymour, one more question. Malcolm Brown is out. No, I still think Brian Flores' comments about his running backs, he made it very clear. He does not want to use his running backs much this week. So I think it's a passing game. So I get it that Gaskin can have those pop games. And if you have a gut feel, you got to go with it. But based on the information that I've seen, and I'm trusting Flores because he doesn't speak like that a lot, I'm going to say Javonte Williams because I just think that floor is safer. Whereas Gaskin, if he gets 4 touches and they just say, we're not going to push him too much, I just think that in a fantasy playoff week, you don't really want to be in that spot. But if you have a gut feel, you got to go with it here. All right, let's see what we got here. Martin, you got Mooney, Gallup, or McLaurin. Oh, good problem to have. Mooney bounces back this week. Mooney had that bad weather game against the Arizona Cardinals where the wind was blowing, the rain blowing sideways. So, that's a problem, for him those 2 weeks. And then last week he had the Packers, and the Packers they just outgunned the Bears. It was that simple. So Mooney bounces back this week. Minnesota's middling against receivers. They're actually bottom 10 against wide receiver 1s and wide receiver 2s. They just cut one of their corners, and I'm sorry, information overload as to who it was. I want to say Basad Breeland maybe. But I think Mooney does really well here. Now Gallup, he's getting like 5 targets a game. It's a great matchup. So, Gallup has some ceiling as well. But Mooney tends to get targets. He has those 220-yard games for those 2 bad down weeks. McLaurin gets me a little nervous because I don't know who's playing quarterback for them. They could be down to a third-string quarterback. It's a Tuesday game. So I think that's the only reason we say, let's back off. Because when these crappy quarterbacks come in, McLaurin's paying the price for that. And he probably sees a lot of Darius Slay here. So I'm going to say Mooney's my call here because I think Mooney has the best floor of the 3. And I think he has an equal ceiling with them as well. So I like that as well. And then I got one more Insta here. Kabroom. I'm on Twitter at Jim Coventry NFL. Please follow me there. I have an Instagram account, but I'm doing the Rotowire one here, but I really don't get on that. So at Jim Coventry NFL, I can answer your questions too. I'm glad I got to help you get to your playoffs. That's what it looks like. Help me there. Yeah, I want you to some wins here. Happy holidays to you as well. And we got Chad Wilson, Jeff Wilson, Chuba Hubbard, or Reynolds from Detroit. You know what? Jeff Wilson hasn't looked good. He has a really good matchup. I do think San Francisco plays with a lead. I think Wilson has the highest floor of the 3, and he has the highest ceiling of the 3. So I think based on that, I think that's why we go that route. And then, Martin, it looks like you have a similar question. You threw Beasley in that equation. You know what? Beasley does have a good matchup. the interior is the place to attack Carolina, but they do have a couple corner injuries, so they might get by on the outside. I still think Mooney is going to see a good amount of targets here, and I love his matchup. So I'm going to continue to go with Mooney here, coming off of 2 bad games. We excuse one for the weather, and then the Packers just was a bad matchup, and it didn't work out. All right. And then you got another one here, Rams defense or the 49ers defense this week. 49ers against Atlanta, I mean, Matt Ryan's terrible. And assuming the 49ers get out to a lead, then they could get Matt Ryan to throw a pick 6 or something, or take fumbles, sack fumbles late. Whereas the Rams, I know they're playing Seattle. Seattle's not great. It's a divisional matchup. They know each other well. I think the game is fairly clean. I think your probability lies with the 49ers. I think we just feast on that opponent. The Rams are look, I know they got Jalen Ramsey, but they had a COVID outbreak. We don't know which players are sick, which players aren't right. We don't even know if the game gets canceled. I'm probably another story for another day. I think we just take the safe play today. Delroy, 2 wide receiver spots to fill. Sterling Shepard, Russell Gage, Cole Beasley, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. St. Brown's had 2 really good games in a row. Then he did it earlier in the year, and then he falls off the face of the earth. So I'm always very concerned about playing him. Arizona is very problematic defensively. You think the slot may be helpful. So there is a consideration there. I said earlier, Beasley does not have a bad matchup here. He plays to attack. Carolina is in the slot. Russell Gage has been very productive in San Francisco. They're so decimated at corner, and they're going to trail, so he's going to get targets. So, I mean, wow. I mean, and Sterling Shepard, though, again, Mike Lennon, that makes me a little squeamish there because you have good options. So basically, I'm going to say this. I do think of the 3 remaining receivers, Cole Beasley is the most likely to have a floor, because I think in this game, it lends itself pass funnel defense, interior weak. I think he has the highest floor of the 3. They all have ceiling, but I think Russell Gage is the most likely of the 3 to hit 90 yards because he's been producing, and they're going to have to throw the ball. So St. Brown, like I said, just worries me that Arizona matchup could be really problematic. So I think Beasley's your safe play. I mean, Beasley could have an equal ceiling to Gage too. I mean, Gage has 3 goose eggs this year, and we can't. Well, Beasley's had pretty much the same, right? Beasley's had some really not goose eggs, but he's had terrible games as well. I still think Beasley's your safe play, but if you need 15 points, I think Gage may be more likely to get it because of the matchup and the decimated secondary of the 49ers. All right, let's see what we got here now. Let me make sure I have these questions here. All right, here we go. Jonny, the Bears plus the 6. What do you think about that? They're at home, which is good. Being at home, that's a big deal. I don't trust Matt Nagy. I don't really trust Matt Nagy. I don't have a feel for it. I really don't have a feel for that game. Minnesota plays every game close for the most part. Even last week, they were winning by a blowout, and Pittsburgh almost came back. So based on the body of work that Minnesota doesn't close out games to keep everything close, the Bears at plus 6 at home, yeah, they probably do. Is a backdoor cover at the very least. They probably do cover that because Minnesota has been that way all year. Delroy, flex option, Dawson Knox, Chase Edmonds, or Noah Fant. Love Noah Fant, but man, he just is not getting it done this year, even in prime matchups. Okwe Bunam gets the ball, and then they run, and then Jerry Judy's involved. We don't see much from Cortland Sutton. Although I like Cortland Sutton's prop this week because this is the one week they might get him open downfield. But anyway, that said, Noah Fant, love him, but I don't know who can play him here. Dawson Knox is your upside play because he's 2 touchdowns around the board here always. And, Carolina, they're tough against the tight end, but the way Buffalo uses them, they can get him open in the red zone. I think Chase Edmonds is the best play of the 3, though, because my gut, and this, I hate to be subjective, try to be objective as much as I can, but James Conner got his ankle hurt last week. He's active this week. But I think Chase Edmonds, they brought him back late, fully healthy. He has to be fully healthy. So I think he'd get more work than Conner this week, because why would they risk Conner with the playoffs coming? So my guess is that Edmonds is your floor play, and he has to have a similar ceiling to the other players. So that's why I would go with Chase Edmonds there. See, I'm good on Insta questions, it looks like. All right, let's see what else we got here. John, 2 running backs, non-PPR, Gibson, Connor, James Robinson. Jacksonville will use him as the main back. Darrell Bevel said that will be the case, and Urban Meyer screwed up, and it's a phenomenal matchup. This is a matchup Rashad Penny went crazy on last week. So James Robinson, I love his prop. I bet the rushing receiving over 103.5 yards. I think the rushing is like 82.5, and I think he could hit that. I like the rushing receiving because if the game script goes off and he's playing full time, they'll throw him the ball more. So I love that prop a little bit better, but I love to start James Robinson here. Now, Gibson, we don't know the state of Washington going into this game, but I'm concerned that James Conner is not going to get a ton of usage here coming off the Monday night ankle injury. We did practice Friday, but Chase Edmonds is back. So that said, so Robinson for sure. I think Gibson's your floor play. I think Gibson's going to get you 8 to 10 points, and you're going to be in good shape, 8 points probably, and not PPR. But I think if you need 15 to 20, then Conner could score multiple touchdowns if they get the ball on the red area. He'd be more likely to have that upside. If you want the safe floor, I think Conner is a low floor this week because I don't know how they're going to use him. Give me a second here. So that's how I frame that. All right. Jeff, you're welcome, man. Dallas 11.5. Yeah, it's a big number to cover. Dak's worrying me. I think his calf is an issue. I think when I see him throw, it looks like he's thinking, and when Dak is at his best, he's not thinking. He's just reading and reacting and just taking what the defense gives him. And I think that's part of the problem right now. Now, I know Mike Glennon's on the other side, and Dallas has all three of their pass rushers, so they could easily make it hell on Mike Glennon, and hell, they could shut him out, right? So I do think Dallas is a reasonable play, minus 11.5, but they're on the road. That's a lot of points to lay in a divisional game. Be very squeamish to lay that amount of points. And we've seen Dallas not really play as well as we thought they have in the last few weeks. So I'm a little bit concerned with laying that many points. So I most likely would lay off that game, but because I definitely don't want to take the Giants, but I don't know the Dallas team unless Dak has the game he should have today. If he does, it's fine. But last week he played a pass funnel Washington football team, and he really soiled the bed to a large degree. All right, Kavan, Zeke, and Michael Carter. So I like Michael Carter this week. Miami's going to blitz the hell out of them. They blitz everybody. And Michael Carter was a great outlet for Zach Wilson earlier in the season. They dumping him to screen passes. Michael Carter could get 8 screen passes again this week. We've seen it. Zeke right now doesn't have a ceiling. Could he score 2 touchdowns? Of course he can. And so that's a ceiling we don't see. But he hasn't shown it. He's like 70 yards or less in a game, and that's all we're getting out of him. So right now, Zeke is like a floor play. Zeke has a better floor than Michael Carter, for sure. Michael Carter has more ceiling because he could catch 7 or 8 passes, and that makes a big difference here. In terms of comfort, I'm comfortable starting both. I'd be happy with both, but it depends what you need. You need the floor at Zeke. If you need to, there's always risk with Michael Carter because we could see some Tevin Coleman. We could see Ty Johnson, which is weird. Ty Johnson disappeared when Michael Carter was gone for 3 or 4 weeks, which that didn't make any sense. But I don't know why they would bring Ty Johnson when Michael Carter was there. Anyway, neither here nor there. That's the opinion on that one. Delroy, 2 running back positions to fill. Dillon, Penny, Pollard, Miles Sanders. Pollard has already been said to see maybe a dozen touches today. He has a torn plantar fascia, so I think that's problematic, and I think he's not 100% or close to it. And the Giants are easier to pass on than to run on. Penny has a brutal matchup. The Rams are fairly lights out against the run. Love Penny's matchup last week. Had him in my DFS lineup until I decided to save money with Jeff Wilson. Genius move. But Penny has a much tougher matchup this week, so I'm not excited there. Dillon has a brutal matchup as well. Top 4 defense. Now he could score. That helps him as well. So Miles Sanders, to me, out of this group is in. So Miles Sanders is in. I think of the other two, I think Green Bay has a better chance to play with the lead, more likely to need Dillon to play clock-killing mode. So I would think that of those. So I would say this. Sanders for sure. Dillon is my floor play. If you're a huge underdog and you need a big game out of your running back, I don't think Dillon's getting the big game. Penny is talented in a bad matchup, though. He could break a long run, and so that would be that. But it'd be Dillon and Sanders otherwise. All right, let's see. All right, Jeff, so you're going with Zeke. Perfect. All right. CB, you need a flex, PPR, Higgins, Evans, DK, Melvin Gordon. Unfortunately with DK, just can't really do it, right? He hasn't done it. Since Russ has been back, I don't think he scored a touchdown. So we got some problems here. Not so good. Melvin Gordon in timeshare. Tough matchup on the ground. Not really in this one. Mike Evans is playing Marshawn Lattimore. So those who have classic battles, I think Lattimore really gets more of Evans and Evan gets a Lattimore. So I think for me, it's Higgins. Higgins has like 114 plus yards in 3 straight games. The matchup against Denver, I think he is in a better spot than Jamar Chase matchup wise, whereas Vic Fangio's defense tends to take away the big play. Higgins has really been a force in the middle of the field. I think that's where you can ding them. So I think the most probable play for you here is T. Higgins. But I will say this, if you have a gut feel on this, you go with your gut, because all of these players could go off. Any one of the 4 could go off. Gordon's the least likely of the 3 to go off, but if you have a gut, go with that. Julia, all right. Yeah, definitely. You as well. I just had a little bit of water. You're welcome. Good luck today. Hope you win your games. Randy, Ty Johnson. Yay! Ty Johnson's inactive. That's awesome. So, because Ty Johnson, what he ultimately does, he takes passing work from Michael Carter, and that's what ticks me off, because there were games where Michael Carter could have had 11 catches and he had like 5 or 6 because Ty Johnson was catching the ball. That's huge. Tevin Coleman, to me, not a threat. He might take a few of the grinder carries. Who cares? They're not going to be the high leverage carries. So I think Michael Carter is in for a good game. Like I said, Miami's going to blitz. And we already saw Zach Wilson will dump the ball off to Michael Carter. And Robert Saleh said Carter's in for a big workload today. So I'm on that one. I already had Carter in my DFS lineup. I only played one. Carter is definitely in my DFS lineup of DraftKings. Martin, you're welcome. Scott Lynn, Mooney or Ayuk? Yeah, I was mentioning earlier, I like Mooney this week. He had 2 down games. One was the weather game against the Cardinals. Nothing we could do there. And then Green Bay, he had the 19-yard catch, and then Green Bay pretty much just shut the Bears down completely. Bears had a couple of gimmick plays that worked. But Mooney had 120 yards and a touchdown in the 2 prior games. And this matchup, there's nothing about Minnesota's matchup that scares me. They're number 23 against wide receiver 1s and wide receiver 2s. So either way, Mooney's covered there. And I think at home, the Bears are going to be just fine. Ayuk, love what he's doing. He hasn't had a great ceiling, though. He's had a good floor. And I think Mooney has an equivalent floor, but I think Mooney has a little bigger of a ceiling. So I think that's the way we're going to go with that one. All right, let's see here. You got Cole, Renfro or Foreman? Hunter Renfro all day long. Was it 300-yard games in a row playing Cleveland? And really, Darren Waller's out. And since Darren Waller's been out, Renfro's really become the middle of the field god for them. And that's not changing right now. And good luck stopping Hunter Renfro. I mean, I'm not making a comparison, but you know how Cooper Kupp just gets open all day long. Well, Hunter Renfro, much less, version of him, but he gets open too, and he makes it real easy for Derek Carr. And so now Foreman, he has a great matchup. Don't understand that, but I mean, Pittsburgh's like bottom 4 against the run or something like that. Bottom 5. Well, they might stack the box here and say, Ryan Tannehill, try to beat us. And I think that's what happens here. So I like Hunter Renfro for floor and for ceiling here. CB, need another flex. KJ Osborne, Zeke, Gallup, or Freeman. You need the upside here. I think Gallup's an upside play here. If you want upside, I think that's got to be upside, because certainly the Giants aren't going to shadow Gallup with James Bradbury. If they're going to shadow somebody, it's going to be Coop. If Lamb goes to the outside, it might be him. It ain't going to be Gallup. And this is a team where you can throw on them. They're really a pass funnel defense. So I think if you want ceiling, Gallup's your play. That's the way I got to say it there. Definitely go with that. Got an Insta question. Cam Ramos, Cardinals receivers leading. So, yeah, it's a good question here for sure. So, when we look at the Cardinals receivers, first of all, A.J. Green looked really good last week. Very, very pleased with the way he played. And I think he is going to be the outside alpha type. And I don't think that he's going to get slowed down, because Detroit not only is thin at corner, but their secondary is decimated by COVID. This is a big pass game for them. Now, with Christian Kirk, it depends. I think they keep him in the slot. I think Antoine Wesley stays on the DeAndre Hopkins side, which is great, because Christian Kirk in the slot is outstanding. I think both Green and Kirk lead the way. I think they both do well. There's plenty of room for both to be successful here. And Kirk in the slot is much better than he is on the outside. Now, Antoine Wesley's going to play a lot of snaps. He's going to get some production, but I don't think he's going to be the go-to guy. I really think it's a co. I think it's co-A.J. Green and co-Christian Kirk. If I had the choice of rostering one, give me the outside receiver. A.J. Green gets a lot of end zone targets, and I think that's very useful. So that's something that we have to consider as well. All right, let's see here. All right, next question. Pick 4 players who will score a touchdown today. All right, let's look through the games here. Yeah, this is so today it's not even. James Robinson is 1. I know he's sucked lately, but Jeff Wilson is number 2. Joe Mixon is number 3. Now, number 4 is going to be a tough one for you. Tough number 4 touchdown scorer. You know what? I would almost say Kyler Murray runs one in, but let's not do that. Let's go with AJ Green. The 4th one is tough. 4th one is tough. You know what? Let's backtrack on the 4th. Let's go with Najee Harris as number 4. I think that's the way we're going to look here. Najee Harris, number 4. All right, CB. Good. Your guts, Higgins. And yeah, Higgins is awesome, man. He's a great player. You definitely go with T. Higgins. Taysom Hill or Brady. You know what? I know. New Orleans has been a really tough matchup for the Bucs since last year. And Brady got it done last game. They were in garbage time, but he made it work. Running quarterbacks can get to the Bucs. Ultimately, there's injuries that have come across the New Orleans side of the ball. They're not the great defense they've been. This is a tough call. I got to go with Brady because ultimately, Taysom Hill, if he doesn't run for 70 yards, I don't think he's passing for much. I don't think he's getting passing production against the blitz from Todd Bowles is going to send. And I think even though there's corner injuries, I think that the New Orleans receivers don't match up well. If Hill doesn't get that big rushing game, he's toast. Brady should get a couple touchdowns for sure in this game. He should get at least 250 yards. If you need a shoot for the moon play, then yeah, I guess Taysom Hill will be the shoot for the moon. But I think Brady has a decent ceiling, but he has a much better floor this week. Because I think, again, you can run. The quarterbacks can run on the Bucs. We saw Josh Allen go for 100 yards last week. So to understand that's absolutely on the table. But ultimately, at this point, I think Brady gets it done. And at home, the Tampa offense is so much better than they are on the road. All right, Julia. Yes, I do. I think James Conner, my opinion, this is completely subjective. Conner hurt his ankle last week. Kingsbury noticed how much work that he gave him over the last month while Edmonds was out. I do think Edmonds gets more work. Now, I think Conner gets used at the goal line. I do think so. And it's not for stats. It's because size. You got a 230-pound back when you put 3 receivers, even if they go 3 receivers or if they go heavy. You want James Conner running the ball at the goal because he's 230 pounds and he runs with power. So he fits it well. But I do think Chase Edmonds sees more work today. I do think so. And if they get out to a big lead, we may not see James Conner at all. If they get the goal line, they're up 24-0. My guess is they know what they got in Conner. I don't think they want to compromise when they don't have to. All right, let's see. OBJ, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Green. So, you know what? I still think with the running back situation with Edmonds coming back from 5 weeks off and Conner dinged up, I think there's a big pass game. At least the first half or 3 quarters, I think it's a big pass game for Arizona. So I think AJ Green is going to be fine here. And I think that they're really integrating him in as a higher volume type play. OBJ, look, he's getting more in sync every week with Stafford, and you can see it. And Seattle is a great run defense, but they're garbage against the pass, and I think OBJ should score another touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is nerve-wracking because he had 2 good weeks in a row, but he did that early in the season, then he falls off the map. I think he's just not a staple on a week-to-week basis, and even though the pressure you would think would go to the slot, Jared Goff is very unpredictable when there's pressure, and I know what Hawkinson, I think Brown, look, he could do something here. I think he has the most downside of the 3, though. And so that's nerve-wracking to me because if Goff gets the yips, which is very possible here, that to me it'd be OBJ 1, Green 2, and Brown 3. And thank you. And let's see any more. You know what? I think we're done on questions. So I got a show to do in a bit. So everybody, good luck today, and